Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later on, we're going to be talking about regulatory takings. But first, since it's political season, a question you're going to be asked on the ballot is, well, can rich guys run just on their own money? To talk to me about it, former Senator Greg Brophy, good to have you.
John, good to be with you.
Nice hairstyle.
Thank you.
You'll get to this someday, don't worry. And the lovely and talented B.J. Nikkel, former legislator as well. All right, you guys are the sponsors of a proposal. Tell me what this constitutional proposal is we'll be voting on.
It's actually pretty simple, John. It's an initiative, 173. We call it Stop Buying Our Elections, for a very good reason, too. The effort will essentially increase contributions when a millionaire spends $1 million or more, or gives or loans to his campaign that amount of money. It triggers the ability for everybody else in that race to raise 5 times the amount allowed under campaign finance law.
Now, let me spit that back to you. Let me see if I understand it. It just so happens there's a kind of rich guy running for governor, so I just can't help but think that might have something to do with it. But if I put $1 million into my campaign and you're running against me, you don't have $1 million to put in your campaign, but it says you can raise 5 times the limit from each of the people you hit up.
That's correct.
Greg, what is the limit now? If I give money to a gubernatorial candidate, how much can I give them?
$1,150 is the maximum contribution at this point.
All right, so for every time Jared Polis drops $1 million into his bucket,
you have to raise 840 some odd maximum contributions. Pick up the phone 800 times and call someone and ask them for $1,050.
Let me explain something about fundraising. You have to call 10 times to get a maybe. So really what you're doing is for every $1 million a rich guy puts into his campaign, his competitor has to pick up the phone 8,000 times to try to get 10% of those guys to say yes. So basically, the rich guy gets to go out and campaign. The working man, he's working for the money.
Yeah, so what's happening is we're turning our elections into auctions instead, going to the highest bidder, the person who can self-fund at now $15 million on this governor's race. And it's not just this guy. If you think about it, Michael Bloomberg would have triggered the campaign finance increase for everybody in the governor's race when he put $2 million into a super PAC for Michael Johnston. But even before that, Vic Mitchell would have triggered this increase in campaign finance limits for everybody in the race when he loaned $3 million to his campaign for governor.
So you're saying this is a Republican, not just Democrat issue. This is a rich guy issue.
This is a campaign finance loophole that needs to be closed.
That's
so that
right.
regular guys of either party can run for office.
It's really contrary to what campaign finance law intended to do in the first place, which is to stop wealthy donors from contributing large amounts of money, millions of dollars, whether through individual contributions or corporate contributions, special interest groups. So it's contrary to that. It is a loophole that exists, that we're trying to level the playing field on this.
I've got a sign in my office from Amendment 27. Was it 27?
27.
And I've kept this placard because it said, vote yes on 27, get big money out of politics.
That's right.
And 27 was the campaign finance amendment, which has gotten big money out of politics, at least in Colorado. So it has worked like a charm. What it's done, of course, is it has
for
funneled
everybody
money.
but millionaires.
Well, and even for guys who don't have the millions, let's talk about the other ways around. There are PACs, there are independent expenditure committees, there's C4s, there's 527s, there are all these other things that, I'm going to use Walker Stapleton as an example, that Walker's effort can use to get big money. So why isn't that the way to even that out?
Well, it is a way to even it out, but we actually anticipate that too for our amendment to the Constitution. If somebody sets up a super PAC, a candidate sets up a super PAC, you can actually go out and raise money for your own super PAC, but you can't direct how it's spent. And if you do that and you raise $1 million or more from, let's say, a husband and wife trying to skirt this issue and give $500,000 each, it would also trigger this. But it's hard, and if you really want to get the influence of big money out, you've got to make it so that a regular person can run for office and raise enough money to compete with the millionaire who's trying to buy the seat.
And
so hang on just a second. The subtlety here is If Jared Polis puts his own money into his own campaign, not only does he save all his time, he can go out and campaign instead of ask for money, he gets to direct where that money goes. If Walker Stapleton has a PAC or an independent expenditure committee and they raise the same amount of money, he has no control over that. He can't say where that money goes. Right. He's not allowed to coordinate.
That's true.
So it's not even his election. All right, you're going to say something.
I was just going to say, it's really so contrary. The large contributions like this from millionaires giving or loaning large contributions to themselves, it's so contrary to what the campaign finance law was created for in the first place, which was to stop the appearance of corruption, really. And so, and in terms of what Greg was talking about as well, you know, just making it possible for the little guy to be able to raise money from friends and family to run. If they have a heart for doing that, they should be able to do that on a fair basis.
You two former legislators put this on the ballot. You're the sponsors of it. Why not reach out to the folks who gave us that god-awful law, Common Cause and others? You know, how do they feel about this? How do left-leaning organizations feel about this, and Democrats?
Well, Jared Polis has endorsed our effort, for one thing. Common Cause has only made one comment about it that I've seen, and they did say that we need to do more campaign finance reform and close loopholes that allow big money
the millionaire loophole.
Close loopholes that allow big money into campaigns. But they said they don't know that this solves the problem. Quote unquote.
By the way, this doesn't solve the problem. Can we all agree on this?
It helps level the playing field.
This is
better.
This is a step in the right direction, so that, you know, and what you really hit it, which was a working guy will never be able to become a governor of Colorado again. You know, so we got Hickenlooper, who was a millionaire before he came in. Before that, we had Ritter, who was a DA. He was able to do it, and Bill Owens, of course. You know, before that, we had a history of guys who actually had jobs becoming governor, and I just don't know. So is it only rich guys, including president, who now are the ones running? You've got Mitt Romney running for Senate. It's going to be a rich guys club, and working guys, not like us, but like you, should be able to.
I tried. I ran for governor 4 years ago, and I had 50 some odd people give me the maximum contribution, and some of them would have been able to give $3,000, $4,000, and even $5,000, which would have put me in a better position to compete against a guy who, in my case, came in and wrote only a $500,000 check to purchase the primary.
It helps.
You're just bitter. That's a problem. You are just bitter and jealous.
And short.
And
short hair.
It at least raises the limit from $11.50, what Greg talked about, up to $57.50. So that helps level the playing field a little bit more. When you have someone donating a disproportionate amount of money, it really does create, you know, an appearance of corruption.
I know you guys are focused on the election itself of this one issue, this constitutional amendment, but stepping out into 2018, how do you think this affects the governor's race? Polis was very smart in endorsing this, as he should, as any rich guy should, because otherwise you look like a rich guy who doesn't want other people to play. Do you think this is going to impact any other elections, including the governor's race, or do you even care about that?
Well, it certainly could impact the governor's race just because of the sheer amount of money that appears to be on tap to be spent on behalf of candidate Polis. Again, $11 million to purchase the primary, upsetting a whole bunch of Democrat activists who wanted their person instead. And now it looks like we're going to be close to 20, maybe even 30 million spent by the end of October to try to purchase the governor's office.
Let's go through the numbers here. On the primary, Jared spent $11 million to secure that. Johnson had a few $1 million thanks to Bloomberg. What about the remaining two candidates?
And Kerry Kennedy set fundraising records. I mean, I was jealous by how much money she was raising when, you know, $500,000, $1 million a quarter. It was incredible, but couldn't compete head to head with 11. I mean, they were polling close, and then all of a sudden, all this extra money comes pouring in, and there you go up to 43% on Name ID. Name ID buys elections.
And Polis just invested another $3 million into ad buys for October, which we can all look forward to.
The beautiful thing is nobody watches television. There's nobody watching us right now. So How are you going to win this campaign? Is there a opponent yet who's going to put in some money to stop it? Because I'm having a hard time seeing who your opposition is going to be saying no, only rich guys should be allowed in elections.
I think that people find this very popular. It's we got the most signatures ever on an initiative, and so I think that speaks to the fact that people really like this, and they don't like millionaires buying elections. And we have yet to really find any great opposition, and so I think that we'll be able to do this.
It's going to be hard. We're having a hard time raising money to
What, there are no rich guys willing to put in?
No rich guys to say, wait a second, wait, hold it, wait. You want
Maybe
me
we
to
could
give
ask
you
Polis
$1
to
million
donate.
so that I will tie my hands behind my back into you? Nah, I don't think so. But we're getting great grassroots support. Club 20 endorsed us. Progressive 15 endorsed us. I anticipate getting a lot of good government organizations to endorse us. So we have a good snappy title, Stop Buying Our Elections. We're running a campaign finance reform to close a loophole measure. I feel like we can pass this thing in the state of Colorado this fall.
Well, it's got two things working for it. It has a bit of an anti-Polis vibe, and that's just because he happens to be running this year. If Victor Mitchell was running, you'd be able to say the same thing. So Republicans will like that part of it, and Democrats will like the anti-rich guy part of it. So I think there's a lot there. How did you get this on the ballot? This is an expensive thing. Let me ask you, how'd you get all that money?
Well,
Which rich guy gave you all that money?
We asked a good government C4, I think it was, to help us get this thing on the ballot, and they said, all right, we'll help you with that. And I don't even remember the name of the organization, to tell you the truth.
Man,
I know.
I want
Our
your
campaign
life.
finance reform
I want
folks
your life.
did that, John. I am sorry.
All right.
Hey, we're working pretty hard on it.
Let's finish this up. What is it that people need to know? Where do they go? What do they do?
Well, we do have a Facebook page, and so if they go to Facebook and look up Stop Buying Our Elections, then there'll be information under that. They can certainly contact either of us, and we're pretty easy to find on Facebook and on Twitter as well.
Just sad when you're out of office and nobody pays attention to you. Call me.
Sad?
We're easy to get.
They'll call you and ask for our number.
It'd be nice if somebody called you and asked for my number. All right, and last word.
You know what? We're supposed to have an election, not an auction. Regular people should be able to run for office in Colorado. You shouldn't have any office sold to the highest bidder.
Greg, thank you. BJ, thank you. Stay tuned.